So when you're applying for your master's degree, you're almost certainly going to be asked for a personal statement. What is that? Well, it's different to all the other bits of your application. If you think about the other things the university wants to see, it wants to see your qualifications and your grades. It wants to see, evidence of the experience you might have, professional experience, if that's relevant to the application. Those things are all really important because they show that you can do a master's. The personal statement does something a bit different. It explains why you should. It's also the bit that needs to be most unique to the master's you're applying for, because you can apply for more than one master's if you want to. And when you do that, you don't need to go and get a new bachelor's degree for each master's, but you really should be writing a unique personal statement for each one. We'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. All the other parts of your application exist to tick some fairly simple boxes. They're showing you've got the qualifications, the experience, the language skills, and so on. The personal statement does more than that. It's also the bit that the admissions staff are going to spend the most time looking at, so you really want to make sure you spend the most time on it too. So, before we think about how a personal statement works, I think it's important to consider what it's actually for and what it needs to do. Well, there's one obvious thing a personal statement needs to do, which is just, further convince the uni, alongside all your qualifications, that you can do this master's. So it provides context and gloss for those. You'll have given the details, your grade for your undergraduate degree and your subject area, and then the personal statement says a bit more about what you actually studied, the modules you did, what you found interesting, and so on. That's all very important. The personal statement helping convince the uni that you can do the course. It's also, though, it's got to help convince them that you'll complete the course. Not just that you're capable of it, but that you really do want to do this master's and you're going to stick it out. The reason for that is, a student starting a master's and not completing it, it's bad for the student, but it's also bad for the university for a few obvious reasons, okay? And they want to know that you're committed and that you're serious. And your personal statement is the best opportunity you've got for showing that. The third thing a personal statement does, and this is something that I think it's easy to lose sight of at this stage, it actually provides a kind of starting point for your interview. Now, not all master's degrees include an interview, but if you do get invited to one, the panel is going to be looking first and foremost at your personal statements and thinking about that's going to form the basis for their questions and conversations on. So you can be thinking about that at this stage as you put it together. What should a postgraduate personal statement actually look like then? What goes in it and how do you write it? Well, first of all, let's think about length. 500 words is, a rough guideline. That's about one side of A4, but really the thing you need to be doing is checking the information the university provides. They'll probably give you a word count. Make sure you stick to it. In terms of contents, again, I'd advise you to check the university's guidelines. They might even give you a good example, okay? But as a kind of rough sketch, well, you're gonna need an introduction. And here I think it's worth focusing on, both the terms there, personal and statement, okay? Say who you are and make a statement. Say, what your ambitions and interests are. Get their attention. They're going to be reading a lot of these. Then, the main part of the statement is going to be on your background. Here you're telling a story. You're saying where you've been, what you've done so far, particularly in terms of your undergraduate work and any relevant extracurricular stuff. And you want to make sure that the master's degree you're applying for fits within that story. Have a really clear chronology. Tell the university how them and studying with them is going to fit into your story, okay? Again, be judicious about what you include here. Do mention specific modules, specific extracurricular experiences if they're relevant, but you don't have to include everything. You'll probably have the opportunity to talk more about, your background and your interests and so on later. You at some point need to be very, very explicit about your interest in this course. This should be coming through anyway, but it doesn't hurt to just state it explicitly. Say, I want to do this master's because this master's is the right master's for me because, this master's will help me do X. If nothing else, this shows that you haven't just copied and pasted the same statement for multiple applications, okay? You're going to need a conclusion, and again, let's think about the statement element here. Make a closing statement, sum up what you've said so far, who you are, where you've been, where you're going, and how this course is going to help you get there. In terms of your style, it doesn't hurt to err on the side of formality, aim for a polite but professional tone. You might be tempted to try and be a bit wacky, make a few jokes to stand out. I'd be cautious of that because you're never quite sure how those jokes are going to come across. At this point, you don't need to work too hard to stand out. You just need to make sure the personal statement does its job. And hopefully you'll then get on to a subsequent stage, which might be a bit more conversational, in an interview or even just over email. Most importantly though, be enthusiastic. You should be excited about doing this master's degree. So be positive and let that come through. So here are a few tips for writing a postgraduate personal statement. First of all, remember what it's for. It's about convincing the uni that you should do this master's and you will do this master's. That's its job. Make sure it does that. Don't feel that you have to say absolutely everything. Part of the challenge you're being set is in being selective and judicious, knowing what is and isn't relevant, okay? Remember too that this may end up being the basis for your interview, okay? So, you can lay some of the groundwork at this point if you like. You can include a bit of information on something, and then, if you get the opportunity, you can expand on that, and that's fine. It can actually help you when you get to the interview stage. Remember that it's an opportunity too. This is the bit of the application when you get to really talk about yourself, about your interests. It's your opportunity to say things. Finally, proofread it. Then proofread it again. Then proofread it by reading it backwards. Don't let any mistakes creep in. Understandably, it looks really bad. Here are a few mistakes to avoid as well, okay? Number one, copying and pasting. You might be applying for more than one master's. That's fine, lots of people do it, but make sure you write a unique personal statement for each one. It can be tempting just to paste the statement from one university into another and change the university name and so on. Don't do that. First of all, there's a risk you forget to change the university name somewhere, which looks terrible, and that does happen. Second of all, you're not going to give yourself a chance to do all those things I've been talking about, okay? Also, don't tell fibs. You might be tempted to say, I really engaged with this scholar's work, or I really enjoyed writing an essay on that particular thing when, perhaps you didn't. There's always a risk that's going to get found out, and it never looks good. It looks terrible. Next, make sure you don't ignore the word count. If the university asks you for 500 words, give them 500 words, not 600. They've got a lot of statements to read through, and if they see one that's massively over the word count, they might not bother with it. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments. Remember, we've got loads of other information on our channel, information on other parts of your application, funding and so on. So, please take a look at those and consider subscribing. And yeah, best of luck.